Good morning and welcome. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to Alliance for Life event, Early Stage Researchers Retreat. I'm truly happy that you are all here this morning. This is a truly unique chance for PhD students and postdoctoral researchers in life sciences from more than 11 countries from Europe to get together, learn, network, and explore interesting career possibilities and also, I would say, funding opportunities. With this event, we truly hope to inspire you for your further career path in research. Either it's in academia, industry, or maybe management. This is a space offered to you to meet your future colleagues or employers. So feel free to ask questions, share experiences, and learn about new opportunities. I would also like to welcome members of the Alliance for Life and representatives of the biotech and biomedical industries who accepted our invitation. So truly, thank you very, very much for joining us today. Now, I would like to give a short introduction regarding our program for today. First, in a few minutes, we will have the first morning session, which is called Life After PhD, which is dedicated to early stage researchers. You will meet 4 truly inspiring personalities who will share their experience with developing a great career in academia and also in industry. Right after the lunch break, yes, don't worry, we will have a lunch break today. Right after that, we will have the first afternoon pitch session, which is also targeted to early stage researchers, and will cover short presentations of companies showing their offer of collaborations and future careers. And the third one, we will have a little small coffee break, and after that there will be a second pitch session. It will begin, and it will be focused on linking Alliance for Life's members to the industrial partners, basically in general, in turning these research results into innovation. And I would like to give you some short technical information as well this morning to make sure that you can see presentations in full screen. To get basically the best experience, please use the view options button. You will find it on the right. I'm not sure if I'm showing it correctly, but you will find it on the right corner of your screen. Maybe it just says view. Maybe it's just a view button. It depends maybe on the version of this Zoom platform. Basically, the best option that I would suggest is side-by-side option. Information about this can be found at the chat section as well, so don't worry about that. ESRs will be also able to receive a certificate for this event, and to do that, you should send your request about that via email, and you will find the correct email also in the chat right now. Okay, I think that's it about the technical information. Now, for the official opening words, I would like to introduce our first moderator, Esther Jarour, who will open our today's program with Life After PhD session. Good morning, Esther. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. Good morning, Europe. Thank you for this wonderful introduction. And I will now open the first Life After PhD session, the first session of the event. My name is Esther Jarour, and I am the communications lead at Sejtek Masaryk University, and I am also the chair of the focus group Science Communication in the Alliance for Life. What is Alliance for Life? It is a bottom-up initiative of 12 leading life science institutions from 12 Central European countries, or from 11 Central and Eastern European countries, that aims at closing the divide in European health research and innovation. Members of the Alliance for Life are progressive research institutions that join forces to work together to create a better research environment where innovation can flourish. It is my pleasure to open the Early Career Researchers Retreat with this Life After PhD session. I am the member of the Alliance since the very beginning, which was 4 years ago, and I'm very grateful for everything that I have learned through the collaboration with the colleagues from my field. The Alliance presents many opportunities for career development, for knowledge sharing, and also for networking with like-minded professionals, and helps us to be better at everything what we do. This retreat marks a historical moment in the project because this is the first time when we open up learning and networking opportunities also for early stage researchers. And from now on, you all can be part of it. So welcome to the Alliance for Life. Now, please, I would like to ask our assistant to put my presentation on. Thank you. And next slide, please. First, I would like to introduce what is actually Life After PhD session. What is this all about? So this is a popular series that we developed at Sejtek Masaryk University, and the goal is to showcase various career paths of the PhD holders and to present these excellent opportunities to junior researchers to meet inspiring personalities and to listen to the exciting career stories. Careers life sciences are increasingly more and more difficult. And we want to present that success, it's not always rosy, and it's not as easy as people think. So we want to present how difficulties can be overcome. We want to share inspiring stories from the different careers. And I'm very happy that we have such interesting guests today. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so I would present you with the little housekeeping rules. So you all have your microphones off, but we would like to ask you if you could turn on your cameras, because this session was actually supposed to be live, and it's nice to see who is here with us today. So if you don't mind, please turn on your video. And you will be able to participate with us. We will be using Mentimeter tool for the interactions. And at the end, there will be a long Q&A session where you will be given a lot of space for asking any questions you wish. You can ask questions to all speakers, or you can direct your questions to a particular speaker. You can ask anonymously, or you can also put your name at the end. The Mentimeter tool, if you don't know it, it's also fully anonymous, so you don't have to, you don't have to worry that we will know your answers. It will be just, we will see the results of the entire group. So next slide, please. And I will start with the introduction of our guests. And as I said, we have very interesting guests. And the first one is Radan Spaventi. And Radan Spaventi is co-founder of Triadela Partners, a consulting company dedicated to discovery and development of innovative solutions for the management of human health disorders, primarily in areas of infectious and inflammatory diseases. He has extensive international senior management experience in publicly listed biotech companies, from medium up to large multinational companies, as well as experience and successful track record in leading world-class international life science R&D teams and organizations. He has expertise in drug discovery and development, from target validation up to proof of concept in humans, with special emphasis on preclinical and early clinical development, as well as translational science. Radan managed to have parallel scientific and academic career with a significant number of recognized publications. Previously, he held positions, for example, at GlaxoSmithKline UK as vice president. Radan Spaventi will share his exciting career journey that led him from academia to leading top-class international life science R&D teams and organizations. He will share with you his experience from the fascinating world of science, business, and leadership. Next slide, please, and I will introduce our second guest. And our second guest is Alison Campbell. And Alison Campbell creates environments that help innovation flourish. As a director of Knowledge Transfer Ireland, a joint initiative between Enterprise Ireland and the Irish Universities Association, she is responsible for policy, practice, and the performance of the Irish Knowledge Technology Transfer System. She was awarded an Order of the British Empire in 2010 in the UK in recognition of her contribution to knowledge transfer. She will share her experience with working in research management roles, funding agencies, policy and strategic roles on leadership boards. As a believer in the power of shared learning, she will provide you with useful tips how to make things happen and how to steer your career in science into the desired direction. Alison will introduce you to the world of knowledge transfer and innovation. Next slide, please. Our third guest is Giedrius Gasiunas. And he's a senior researcher at the Institute of Biotechnology of Life Sciences Center at the Vilnius University, and a founder and chief scientific officer of the biotechnology company Caszyme. Caszyme aims to deliver novel solutions in the fields of CRISPR-based molecular tools. He obtained a PhD in biochemistry at the Vilnius University in 2012. During the PhD, he studied the mechanism of Cas9 protein activity and is a co-author of 28 scientific publications, which were cited more than 3,000 times. Giedrius was involved in several Cas9-related patent applications. He will share with us his experience in developing and characterizing new tools in support of CRISPR-Cas gene editing technology research and describe his career journey from his PhD degree in biochemistry to his own successful biotechnology startup. Giedrius will introduce you to the world of scientific innovations and entrepreneurship. And our last guest, next slide, please, is Dr. Peter Padrick, and he's a founder and CEO of company Antigenes. Peter Padrick is one of the leading cancer specialists in Estonia, with more than 25 years of experience as a clinician, researcher, leader, and healthcare manager at Tartu University Hospital. Peter Padrick is one of the pioneers in the implementation of innovative genetic information into healthcare. His spin-off company just received an investment of 500,000 euros to bring the genetic tests for cancer prevention to UK market. The novel genetic tests enable to assess an individual's personal cancer risk and provide science-based medical recommendations for prevention of the disease. The tests are based on the polygenic risk score technology. Peter will guide you through his admirable career journey of a medical doctor, researcher, and a spin-off founder. So now we will come to the slides can go down, and you have met our speakers, and now we would like to meet you. I will post into the chat a Mentimeter voting link, and I will please ask all participants to click on the link and answer the first 5 questions. We will be asking you, where are you now, in which country? What is your home institute? So which institute are you representing? What is your field of study? What is your career stage, whether you are a PhD student, postdoc, or a senior researcher or something else? And then we would like to have an idea, what is the gender balance in this group? Do we have more men or women? So if you could please just answer those first 5 questions, don't answer anything else yet. And I will show you the results of the voting right now. So screen share. So here. So let's see. Exciting. So we have a lot of people from Czech Republic, Croatia, Lithuania, Latvia. So keep voting and we'll see the updates. Romania, Slovenia, Bulgaria. Fantastic. We have even people from India, Scotland, Greece. Fantastic. It's nice to see. So let me show you the results of the next question. I hope you have answered. So the next question, what is your home institute? So we have people from Masaryk University, Vilnius University, IOCB Prague, fantastic. And even CETEC, yes. And a lot of institutes, I don't know, it's a great variety. So it's wonderful to see that we have researchers from many places. So let's have a look at the next question. So what is your field of study? We have people mostly biochemistry, medicine, chemistry, neuroscience, cancer biology. Wow, structural biology, yes. So you can see yourself, again, we have a wonderful mixture of many scientific fields from the life science area. So, and the next question, So what is the career stage? So most of the people here are PhD students, wonderful. We have few postdocs and a few people who are in the other category. So great. And let's have a look at the gender balance. Oh, we have mostly women here. So we see that women are interested in finding out about career options. So thanks a lot. I will stop sharing now. And we will come to the first part, so the moderated career discussions, where I will be asking interesting questions to our speakers, and later on there will be a space for the questions from the audience. So the first question would be, what were the most important career transitions in your career? So all our speakers went from academia to various fields. So I will ask Radan first. Can you tell us, what do you consider to be the most important career transitions in your career?
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here and with all of you. Well, I think when I look back, there are maybe four milestones in my career where I was forced, or I wanted to make big decisions in terms of my career. The first one was really decision to switch from medicine to basic science. When I graduated medicine, I realized that my heart lies in a science rather than a clinical medicine. And in contrast to most of my colleagues from the school, I enrolled to Ruđer Bošković Institute, which is a big state basic science institute, and pretty much started my career in a basic science. At some point, so that was first decision that I made. At some point, I realized that I have learned everything I could in the place where I was. So I decided to follow my career in international arena. And so I moved to Harvard, to Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, where I spent time and I kind of learn and expose myself to international scientific arena. And then after I came back to Croatia, I got invitation to join Pliva company. For you who are not familiar with the Pliva, but at that time Pliva was the biggest pharmaceutical company in Central and Eastern Europe, listed on the London Stock Exchange, very important place. And they invited me to actually take over the research institute as a director. So I switched from academia to industry. I have to say that at that time I really didn't know anything about the industry. It was, from this perspective, pretty brave decision. And I spent in industry in various companies a number of years, and then 10 years ago I decided to become entrepreneur and establish my own company. So I would say these four decisions, made my career as it is today.
Okay, thanks a lot. So now the same question for Alison. Alison, what were your most important career transitions?
Sorry, didn't unmute myself there. Gosh, you'd think after 2 years of lockdown, we might have realized how to do that by now. Hello. So career transitions. I guess I have three, but there's one I think that's really pivotal, but let me just take you through them very briefly. I think the first one was after my PhD, going to work in R&D in a biotech company. I knew that I was working with some absolutely fabulous researchers, and I was very lucky to work in a really, really good group. And I realized that I would never be as good as them, because they slept, they dreamed, they breathed science. And I really enjoyed it, but actually I was interested in some slightly different angles, and I thought I might like to do something a little bit more commercial with my research. So I went to do R&D in a biotech company, which was great. And then that positioned me really well for my next move, which was away from the lab completely and into a more office environment. And I joined a new research commercialization team in the major research funder, the Medical Research Council in the UK, as one of their first technology transfer managers. And that was really, I think, a very defining moment in my career, because then I became actively involved in helping commercialize research, bridging between academia and industry. And then everything else that I've done, I think, has really spun from there.
Thanks a lot for your answer. Now, Giedrius, what was the important career change for you?
Hello to everyone. I have only one important career change. So after PhD, I stayed in the same lab for a postdoc for several years. And then we with the team decided to establish startup company. And that's how I, 5 years ago, became the part of management of this company.
Okay, thanks a lot. And Peter, whose career is he seems to be doing everything still at once, but what would you consider for you, Peter, the most important career change or career transition?
Hello, everybody. Great to be here and share some thoughts and ideas about these topics. I graduated, I received my medical doctor degree already 1990. And if I think back, then the next such important step was to start also administrative work. Because in 90s, we had such transitional times. And then you started to think that you are doing your doctor's work, but somebody else decides for you very important topics, how the work is organized and so on. And so there was need to do such administrative responsibility. And I became also as a head physician of the Tartu Oncology Hospital at that time. All the time I continued my professional oncologist work, but same time also such administrative positions until 2015, I became also director of the cancer center at Tartu University Hospital, or actually we created this structure, and I was the first director, and also quite same time I became head of clinic of hematology and oncology in Tartu University Hospital. But before that, I think that one important step was also to start my PhD studies, because majority of medical doctors, they do not do that actually. But as I worked in university hospital, this was quite natural, and I did all these PhD studies during my also my medical work or in parallel with this, which sometimes it's quite complicated to do both things, research and clinical part. Then same time, I have been a lot involved in development of genetics in Estonia. We have in Estonia quite large biobank and a lot of genetic research. But in 2015, our government started such national governmental programs how to bring this genetic information into use in healthcare. And in 2017-18 was started a national pilot project where the aim was to bring genetic information and also new genetic information in the form of polygenic risk scores into use in healthcare. And I was head of the consortium and also principal investigator in case of breast cancer studies. But during that process, we understood that we have new technology, polygenic risk scores, which are not used in healthcare. And I felt that if you believe in this technology, then you have to go out doing only projects, but to do process to the final solution, final product. But as for genetic tests, we have European regulations. Then for genetic tests, we need manufacturers of tests who are responsible for producing these tests as in vitro medical devices. And universities cannot be such organizations. So it was very natural for me to found a company. Antigenes, ante is before in Latin, and genes are genes. So genetic information before diseases for personalized prevention of such common diseases like cancers. And I founded this company, but same time I continued my administrative works and as director of cancer center at the University Hospital. But same time, in the process, you somehow logically understood that you cannot do both. And I left my administrative positions in hospital and also in cancer center, and started only working mainly as a CEO for Antigenes. But same time, I'm part-time, I'm continuing teaching in University of Tartu as associate professor in oncology, and continuing also my part-time such medical career. So I think the biggest decision was to move from these leading administrative positions in university hospital to private enterprise. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Here I already see the motivations in for career transitions. I have totally detected that when Radan was speaking, he was saying that he moved to another position because in that position he learned everything that he could, and he was basically probably driven by developing himself. And when he learned everything, he had the need to move somewhere else. With Alison, it was slightly different. I had a feeling she felt she doesn't fit in a certain environment, and she was looking for something where she would match more with her personality, with her skills, and what she enjoys doing. So she was basically also searching her way what to do. With Giedrius, he discovered something new and novel, and he realized, okay, this has to be moved, farther and developed, and he founded a company. And also very interestingly with Peter, I could notice that whenever was something not working, on the environment was not ideal, he was striving to fix it, make it better. And also he seemed to be very curiosity driven all his life, and basically moving out of curiosity to new fields and new areas. So now the next question would be, because career changes are not easy. So what was the most difficult during that career transition? Why was it difficult, and how did you overcome it? So first, again, Radan, the difficulty in the career transitions.
Well, I think the most difficult was to make a decision, actually. When I think back, and frankly speaking, this kind of let's call it exercise actually forced me to think back, because I was never thinking what was leading my career forward historically. When I think at the beginning I made the change following the heart, because I wanted to be in the science. Then I when I decided to go out, I was following the knowledge. In moving to Pliva, it was really about following the opportunity and instinct, and this latest change is change of somebody who is experienced and have spent a number of years, so I could actually make a decision based on mind, on brain. Now it's very hard to define what was important at each point, because it's always a combination of different factors. I guess it's you know, kind of critical mass of elements that build up to the certain point when you make this decision. And what is really important is that one actually recognize this window opportunity, which very often is very short, to actually make this decision. As you move forward and you gain more experience, it's much easier to recognize these windows of opportunity. When you're younger, it's harder. My how to say, way of looking at this, that I actually never looked back. I always look forward. I was never challenging myself why I did this or that. I always wanted to move forward. So it was kind of much easier for me to make this decision, because I was not, you know, kind of buried by problems in a history, but I was looking for opportunities in the future.
Thanks a lot. Alison, what was the difficulty in your career transitions, and why?
Oh my goodness. Well, yes. I mean, first of all, I just agree with Radan about the decision bit. And I would actually say that in terms of making decisions, it's really important to make the right decisions and not necessarily just run at things because it seems to be the right thing to do at the right time. And I've just been really, really fortunate in the opportunities that have come to me, but also the fact that I've thought very carefully about whether or not that will be the right kind of fit. But I've never, and I just think this is really important to get across, I've never actually sort of sat there and said, and some people do, I want to go from here to here, so I need to do this, and then I need to go there, and then I need to go there. There's been a lot of serendipity in what's happened, and sometimes it's just about where you are, how you position yourself, how you build and grow as to what naturally might come next. So don't panic, everybody, if you suddenly think that you need to know where you're going to be in your 40s. You don't need to, in my opinion. So what was the most difficult? Well, actually, for me, it was that transition from the lab, which I missed, but also into a very, very new area that actually was very much, and I think this has been a bit of a defining feature of a lot of the roles I had, that wasn't completely formed or properly described. There wasn't necessarily rules and processes. You had to both learn as you go, adapt, make the rules. It was about starting in a completely new area. So I do remember day one in the job, sitting in an office, which was very exciting, behind a desk, thinking, I wonder what I'm supposed to do now. Will somebody come and tell me how this might be? And then by the afternoon, I mean, I was doing a lot of reading around. By the afternoon, I went, no, I need to figure all of this out for myself. And that's why I've been employed. And I think one of the great things was that's what your PhD stands you in really good stead for, because you're used to managing yourself, you're used to being self-driven, you're used to learning, you're used to being analytical, and you have communication skills, which is something I'll probably come back to later. But actually, you've got a really good package of skills inherently in you because you've been through that whole process of a PhD that I think really come to the fore when you start. And it doesn't matter what the job is, that really come to the fore when you start a new job. So it was yeah, challenging, but actually it was also thrilling and exciting. And I think for me that's another thing that's always driven me. I like interesting things, and I don't like to be bored. And I like to be challenged, and I like to be busy.
Okay, Giedrius, why was your career transition difficult, and how did you manage to overcome it?
Well, yes, I see my career transition not as evolution, not revolution. So all decisions came naturally. But after that, I think it was quite difficult time, because I needed to leave comfort zone and do not what I was staying for 10 years and where I was successful, but build this new set of the skills in management.
Thanks. So I'm very grateful you mentioned the word comfort zone and leaving the comfort zone, because this is exactly what changes in careers are about. So that's the key word. And Peter, how was it for you? The greatest, the most difficult career transition, and why?
I think that principally going outside from academia to, if you are founder and entrepreneur, you're taking much bigger risks. Principally, you bring your skin to the market. And it's much more comfortable to be in academia or a public hospital working there as in, especially in startup enterprise. I think this is such biggest shift in these things that your risks are absolutely different. And but from other side, you are not so restricted. You are free, and this has also such positive sides. So if you are going to entrepreneurship, then the sky is limit. So it's quite well balanced, actually.
Thank you for this wonderful closure. So every time we leave the comfort zone, there is a reward at the end. So it's always worth it. Now we come to a very positive and nice question. Success can be very subjective. We all have different definitions of success. What do you define as your greatest success in your own career, and why, Radan?
Well, to give one answer, actually, I think that the success was actually to be a good and respected leader. In my case, obviously, each career is different. That actually enabled a number of different people and organizations to grow. And what I feel is success is when I look back, I see actually all these people that I was working with and all these organizations, they are still growing and progressing and stuff like this. And if I did, and I guess I did, you know, be of help in this progress historically, I have every reason to be so, you know, happy, and I should, you know, treat that as my success. Obviously, I was lucky, and I had a chance to influence all these things. So my impact on this organization was such that I could actually kind of facilitate their progress, and you know, I guess I did it pretty successfully.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. Good leaders are very important, and a leader who thinks about his own ability to lead is usually a good leader. So thanks a lot for your answer. Alison, what do you consider to be your greatest success in your career?
I just love Radan's answer there, actually, and I'm going to change what I was thinking about, but I'm actually not going to pin it on one, and I think that is partly the joy of getting a little bit older. So firstly, I'd say, you know, looking back and just really reacting there, I think, you know, one of my great successes is having been able to have the luxury of working with really good people and see them flourish, and see where they still are in their careers, and still be connected to them, and just see how well they've done. And that's lovely. And the fact that, you know, they still would like to be connected to me is also really quite nice. So that's one of them. Another thing that I thought actually people might find quite interesting is a kind of success was, and it really came home to me actually when a friend of mine was having some cancer treatment, and I remember turning around to her, and she, like me, was a biochemist by training, and I remember turning around to her and going, actually, I played a role in your treatment, and it wasn't as a researcher, but actually it was in the field of antibody engineering, so that kind of fundamental platform. And my role was when I was working at the Medical Research Council, I was really involved in the detailed patenting that actually then supported the commercialization strategy that allowed the companies, you know, the confidence to spend millions in investing in various products that would then come to market. So, you know, as life scientists, we get the opportunity in some very different ways to still actually deliver healthcare benefits to people, but maybe not in the obvious way when you're doing your PhD that you might think about. So I'll stop there with those two.
Thank you. It was wonderful. It also shows that what is very important for people is that their work matters, that it makes sense and it can help others. I could totally feel this from your answer. Giedrius, what do you consider your greatest success in your career?
Well, in my case, it's research which I performed during my PhD studies, because it laid the ground to my further career. And also in the lab, at the time, we performed just fundamental research, how bacteria protect itself from bacteriophages. But after finding this wonderful Cas9 protein, we then see some opportunities for applications, and that's how I moved to more than to applied science.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. And Peter?
Yes, I'm a medical doctor, and I think that for doctors, most important is to help patients, and it's such everyday work is very important, and so I think that if I could help patients, then this is my such biggest success actually professionally. And now in Antegenes, when we are creating new products, we can even help more people bringing new technologies into use healthcare. The final aim is to help people to live longer and healthier lives. And if we can do that, it's such most important success of my career, I think so.
Wonderful, thanks a lot. It's nice to see that it's mostly not one thing, but it's this feeling that that makes people happy and defines them as successful in their careers, because they realize that their career is making sense. And now we will come to the most difficult moment in your career. It doesn't have to be a moment, but it could be also, what do you consider the most difficult at your work that you have to overcome? Radan.
Let me, how to say, draw you a picture, okay? I was responsible for almost 1,000 researchers and had simultaneously institutes from United States through Europe over to India, okay? I was, how to say, buying companies, I was selling companies, I had to, how to say, defend results in front of London Stock Exchange. I had to lay off people and employ people. So it's almost impossible, you know, to recognize one difficult moment, because there are, you know, so many of them. But frankly speaking, I don't remember any of them, because my logic always was to, how to say, turn problem into the project. And immediately when I managed, you know, to do that, and sometimes it took a second, sometimes it took a minute, sometimes I had to sleep overnight, but usually never longer than that. How to say, I would turn myself in active mode, and problem, you know, didn't exist as a problem anymore. It became a project. So really, it's hard and it's impossible to actually think of any specific difficult moment. And believe me, there were plenty of those. Yeah, but that's life, and that's what we are paid for.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I can see that those difficult moments in your career were about making very difficult decisions that affected a lot of people, which
you know, the problem is that as high as you are, more lonely you are, and you know, you have to make these decisions that, you know, some people can, some can't. And that's.
Thanks a lot. Alison, the most difficult moment or the most difficult part about your job, what is it?
I'm taking a very different angle on this, and I would actually say, and I know a lot of people who've been there, and it's possible that actually many people at this meeting at some stage in their life will go there too. It's actually working for a very difficult person, and they do say that people don't tend to leave organizations, people leave people. And leadership, which was something that Radan talked about earlier, is really, really important. And I had a situation where I worked with somebody who was very difficult, was very challenging, and I use that in a very British way of saying the word challenging, not necessarily in that super positive way of saying challenging. And ultimately, it was an uncomfortable situation to be in, and most people don't like to admit to that. And I'll be honest, it took me several years before I felt brave enough to admit to it. But I've seen a lot of people now in my career at senior positions who've also had those moments of difficulty, and ultimately you're forced to make some kind of a decision, and often the decision is, this is no longer a place for me, I need to go find something else. So for me, that was a difficult, both a difficult situation and back to the difficult decision making, you know, leaving something behind that I really cared about, but it was a good time to go.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot for sharing this. I guess most of us have experienced at least once in their lives a difficult person in the workplace. Now, Giedrius, what was the most difficult moment or part about your job for you?
Well, I have yet another angle, because for me, I think the most difficult time was at my PhD, when it struggled for almost 3 years without any results. And at the time, you have not a lot of life experience to deal with that. And that happened because I was in completely new project and couldn't get like help from anyone from my environment.
Thanks a lot. I think this was also a wonderful answer. The 200 PhD students in the room at least know that the most difficult part of their career is now, and it's going to get easier. And now, Peter, what do you consider the most difficult about your career, about your job?
I don't have such one most difficult moment because you cannot assume that all comes easily. It's you have may have very different problems, and you have to be oriented to solve these problems. But what I think for me is most frustrating is working with negative people, no-sayers. No need for that. Don't do that and such things. So it's best way to avoid such people, and because you waste your energy and thinking in such negative things. So that's such most difficult to deal with such no-sayers.
Thanks a lot. It seems that everyone here almost agreed that the most difficult moments in our careers are related to other people we work with. So that's an interesting answer. And now let's talk about skills that you need to perform your job well. And now, since we talked about, people and difficulties, let's turn to soft skills or transferable skills. What from those extra skills would you consider are the most important to succeed in your job? So Radan, in leadership, what would be the most important skill that one would need in your job?
I think that if in the terms of leadership roles, I think that the most difficult leadership role is in science. Okay, and the reason for that is that you actually are leading smart people, ambitious people, people that think their own mind and stuff like this. And it's and therefore I think that obviously in order to lead them, you have to be equally respected scientists, because they don't they will lead you because you're a leader, but eventually they have to respect you as a scientist. So before talking about soft skills, I think it's very important that everybody recognize that if you have any ambition of being leader, first you have to do your homework, okay, and become a good scientist. Now, on top of that, I think it's once when you achieve that, I think that it's important to work on your management skills and leadership skills. Part of it comes from your, from within, but a lot of things you can learn. And you have to understand, at least in my situation, it was very much about strategic thinking, about understanding business, understanding environment, and very, very much about understanding people, because in terms of science, I guess everywhere, but in terms of science, it's all about the people. So understand how to deal with them and how to, make sure that they make best out of themselves, because the leaders in a science are really there primarily facilitators and enablers of people to grow. Okay. So in terms of leadership, this is it.
Thanks a lot. Alison, skills that are needed in your career?
Okay, so in terms of these softer skills, as people often call them, communication, I think, is top of the list. And if you think about it, really, in the majority of careers, you do actually need to have very strong communication skills, and you need to develop them. It's more than thinking I can write a paper. And if you look at academic research, you do need to be able to write papers, you need to be able to write grant applications, you need to be able to pitch your ideas. And actually pitching ideas is something I think that's the heart of nearly any role, and particularly as you progress, but not even as you progress, because you've got to convince somebody somewhere to do something that you want to do. And invariably there's a management chain that you need to convince, or there's a funder that you need to convince. So there's that kind of formal sort of pitching skills in terms of communication, but also in terms of that piece about working with other people. You need to be able to communicate very effectively to be able to get to where you need to go. You need to be clear, you need to be concise, you need to set a kind of strategic direction, you need to be able to take people with you. And most times when things go wrong, actually, if you unpick it, the first problem is a failure to communicate properly. So I would really put that at the heart of skill sets that people need. And then wrapped around that, I think strategy is something that you acquire, but you can be helped to do, is really important. And I actually think being able to organize well just serves you incredibly well, that sort of being and well organized. And then I think there's another skill that I think we have in spades as scientists, which is creativity. And so within all of this, if we're talking about skills, I just encourage people not to lose that spark and sense of creativity, because actually wherever you end up, it's just a great thing to bring along.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. Now, Giedrius, in your startup, when you left academia or when you started to do your own business, what was the most important skills you realized you have to have?
Yeah, so I think there was skills for which I was not trained for, I would say. And then I think everything what was mentioned by previous speakers is important. Also, I would say I need also skills for project management. And also I would like to stress out decision making. Of course, it's maybe at this stage of career, we are yet not a big company, but it's still sometimes difficult to make decisions, especially regarding your people who works for you, because you know all of them personally very well.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. Now, Peter, you transitioned from the medical doctor and researcher to having your own company. It came as a surprise. And what would you say, since you have the company, what were the skills that you realized were the most important and handy for you?
Yes, if you are CEO of a startup company, then you need much more complex skills than to be simply professional, because you are dealing with leadership questions, management questions, communication questions, business tactics and strategies, financial questions, and so on. At the same time, I think that you have to be open to various kind of information. You have to be ready to learn things, ready to adapt to changes in environment and different conditions. And then at the end, such most important thing, I think, is believe in yourself, because without that, this is very difficult.
Mm-hmm. It was also a wonderful answer. People sometimes don't realize that even self-confidence is a skill and helps you advance your career. So in the past, people usually, they realize they need a certain skill. They realize, oh, I don't know it, and started to look for ways how to learn it, or learn everything by doing. Now in the modern times, the new PhDs, they have this wonderful advantage that those skills can be offered to them by the universities, by the institutes, before they need them, and they have the chance to develop them and to be ready for their careers. So when you were young, did you actively work on the development on your skills? Were there any courses, or how did you acquire the most needed skills in your career, Radan?
First of all, one should never stop learning. Okay, that's the basics. On the other hand, experience is something you cannot buy. So yeah, I think it's always a combination of experience that you gain through exposure to different environments and situations, but at the same time, obviously, you have to actively learn. And I think when you say actively, I really mean actively in the areas which are not your core competence, because the areas which are your core competence, then experience will build up by itself because you're working on the projects and whatever you're doing. But you have to recognize what are your blank spots or things that you are going to need in the future, or you want to develop in the future, and actively learn through various, there are courses there. But what I would say is at least I was always driven by that, and it's certainly the how to say, suggestion to everybody. I think you should always try to surround yourself with the people that are better than you. Okay, always look to be in how to say, group which is A-class people. And then you're going to learn from them. I mean, you're going to learn mutually. I always say, one of my previous colleagues said that the good leader is always leading the group which is better than him. That's the way how to move forward. And I think that that would be the most, how to say, active way of doing things in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. Alison, how did you develop your skills?
Well, I'll tell you, but I just have to react to that, because it takes confidence as well, particularly when you're younger and maybe you've got your first team around you. I remember having somebody who worked for me, and I'd go home and go, oh my goodness, he is so much better than me. And then I thought, oh, what a fortunate position I'm in. And that sort of really stimulates and spurs you. But particularly when you're younger, you've got to be really brave about surrounding yourself with the brighter people, because it can sometimes be a bit intimidating. But don't be intimidated, because you're normally leading something because you've got a skill set and a rounded skill set. So I was, I jumped at the chance when I could to take on any extra learning, if it was out there. There wasn't always a lot, to be honest with you. So it's been a combination of taking what's available, if it's available, trying to seek it out if I could, but very much that sort of on the job learning and exposing myself to different kinds of situations. So for example, at one stage in my career, I became actively involved in a committee for our profession. We developed a whole sort of suite of training materials. Now, I'd never been in that kind of an environment before, but that was brilliant because I was working with smart people. I was learning not only how a committee went, it then evolved into a board of a company. So I got a lot of experiences, and we had people who had very different experience sets that I could learn from. And that was in a way which complemented my day job that I was being paid for. But the skills that I would have received in the day job were actually not as broad as those that I was getting from doing that extra activity. So I found that particularly beneficial.
Thanks a lot, Giedrius.
Yes, so I'm consider myself that I still learning those things, and when I have chance, I take courses, and of course I do a lot of reading, including books in that field.
Thanks a lot. And Peter, how do you actively work on developing your skills?
Yes, I agree what Radan says, that this is a continuing process of learning. And of course, experience is important, but from other side, it's not the best way actually, because it's better to learn from others people's experience. And if you look for various fields, let's management, leadership, psychology, or business development things, marketing things, there is a lot of analyzed collective knowledge in literature. You have to read, you have to attend courses. And in nowadays modern world, we have informational society. It's quite easy to actually get various kinds of information. And if you look more narrowly into healthcare innovations, then these processes have analyzed how to bring healthcare innovation into use. They have analyzed, and there are quite clear and systemic mechanisms for that. So there is no need to try and get experience from your own mistakes, but the better way is to look systematically what is published and so on. So from other side, it's if we are speaking about PhDs, then all are scientists, and you can apply same methods, scientific methods, looking for literature and so on, also in other fields of your activities.
Thanks a lot. I loved Peter's answer, because we can learn a lot from mistakes from the others. And there we also see the pity that not many times people share failures. Most of the times we only look at the successful people, they are intimidating us. But in this session, we came to realize that every successful person never stops learning and proactively seeks opportunities to step out of his or her own comfort zone and to be better, because success never comes for free. Now we would like to engage the audience a bit. So go back to the Mentimeter again, because I have a good news for you. The Alliance for Life is bringing a skills academy, where basically we will hire professionals to teach courses that our audience, that you people would like to acquire. So go to the next question there, which is about skills. So what skills would you like to develop within the Alliance for Life Academy, if you could? And I will now share the results, and it will give us an idea what are the most desired skills by our students. So here. Okay. Oh, wow. We have networking coming up very big. We have communication coming very big. We have job searching. We have also self-confidence, leadership, grant writing, project management. I'm very happy that I see so many skills written here, because it shows that you people want to learn, and this is what we are here for. So thanks a lot for the answer. Now we will go back to the speakers and continue a bit with the questions, and soon there is a space for your Q&A. Now we will speak about academia versus industry. A lot of people are afraid to leave academia because it's a certain step out of the comfort zone, especially when they stayed in academia for way too long. And almost most of you were saying it, Peter was emphasizing, it's very difficult to leave academia and be suddenly somewhere else. But being outside of academia can have advantages. So what do you love the most about working outside of academia, Radan?
Although they are dealing with the similar topics, I would say they are two totally different worlds, academia and industry. And I have to say that when I was at the beginning of my career, when I was only academia, I really, looked at industry as something which is how to say, not good, which is kind of world which will limit my academic freedom and stuff like this, which is really not true. I would say that we have to, we are talking about pharmaceutical industry and surrounding sciences. We have to recognize that there are two, I would say, parts of this process which are very different. One is part which is discovery part, which is in terms of topics pretty similar to what is happening in academia. And the other one is development part, which is really about more mature parts of the projects where the products are, how to say, progressed into the commercial stage, which is very different from academia. What is same are actually the skills and the knowledge that you have to do that. I would say that industry actually gives you sense of purpose, sense of focus, obviously provides you with very often provides you with the means to do things which are much more present and abundant than in academia. There is certain level of restrictions because everything is there related to international IP, and therefore then kind of academic progression, which is reflected to the papers and stuff like this, is slowed down because we are working on a product which has to be how to say, developed in a certain level of secrecy and everything. But what I, in a way, and recognize as a big difference is actually, and maybe it's going to be a surprise for most of the people, it's actually seriousness of science. I think that the science in industry is much more serious than in academia, simply because the results that we produce in industry really have to be bulletproof. Okay, our recognize is that we recognize very often that when in an industry we are trying to repeat some of the papers which are published in academia, I would say 7 to 8 out of 10 we are not able to reproduce. Okay, which in industry cannot happen, because in industry every result has to be in a way bulletproof, that even after 15 years when you go back to the paperwork you have to be able to prove it. And also we are talking about huge amounts of money which are invested, which is other people money and stuff like this. So the seriousness of science in academia is in a way restricted, but it's much more serious. And I personally feel that my move from academia to industry was actually a huge step ahead in my career in terms of science.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot, Alison.
So my roles have mainly been in what you might call the public sector, and what I've really enjoyed about that is I've got a unique opportunity. And by the way, I have to say, I was delighted when you said some of the skills you wanted. I saw technology transfer came up there. But my role has been in various capacities about helping really good research results and expertise get into the hands of industry, get used for good stuff to happen. And so I'm a translator in some way, shape or form. And that's really nice because it allows me to still have the connections between academic research, but also the sort of the commercial side of the house, and to help things happen and to see many things flourish. And for me personally, the joy of working in that more sort of public sector kind of a role is that, you know, ultimately this is about, if we look at it in the field of healthcare, it's about helping good results that will ultimately make people better in a different way, of course, from direct research or running a company. But also there's an element of that kind of economic development as well. You know, I'm always very conscious that I'm employed by and I am spending the citizens' tax money to do the job that I do. And that's a really huge privilege, but it brings with it a lot of responsibility to do it right. So I think, you know, in essence, the job's great because I feel it allows me to make a difference. And I feel that it allows me to talk to two similar but slightly different communities.
Thanks a lot. So there's a lot of variety, and you feel you can help the researchers to advance in their careers and help them with things that they could not do themselves. So it's very nice. And Giedrius, in your startup, what do you love the most?
Yes, so I'm still in startup. We are performing discovery research. So I consider myself a scientist, and I could only compare how it would be in academia in my current position. So I would say I think in startup you can be more and should be more proactive. So you should react if something is if something is published or not interesting anymore, or you know that IP situation is not allowed, you need to react to this, and I think you can react faster. And also maybe it's related to region where work, this Eastern Europe region, that bureaucracy when you work in university and academia is quite painful, especially with this public procurement. So you do not have it in startups, so it's advantage also.
Nice, less bureaucracy and faster. Yeah. Everything is faster. Okay. And Pete, what do you love the most about having your own startup?
I think in general, it's very important to understand that modern society doesn't function without industry. And it's not possible to bring scientific research and innovation into use without industry. Because if we look at all great products and we enjoy in modern world, they are based on basic research sometimes, but they are developed into final products in industry. And hopefully such Europe also understand more and more that it's very important to support processes from research to final products in cooperation between academia and industry. And yes, unfortunately, we see still such attitudes that industry is something suspicious and something bad, but hopefully this is changing quite quickly, because at least if we look Estonia, we have so many startups coming from people, and I see similar trends in other European countries, and these things are really changing. And I think my experience in European events previously has been so that during daytime, during official programs, all is so social and no talks about money and business. And in the evening, when we have social events in bars or in dinners, then everybody speaks that we need more money, money is very important. And therefore, I think that we don't be ashamed that the greed is the biggest driver of innovation in modern world. But from one side, if we do develop companies, then of course companies cannot operate without profit. They are made for profit. But from the other side, this is not only for money, it's also creation of new values, new benefits for customers, which we actually enjoy every day in our life.
Thank you for all your answers. We were trying to show that there are also things that one can laugh about careers outside of academia. And the reason is that the society is producing more and more PhD graduates, but the faculty positions are not growing. So nowadays, a lot of people will have to choose a career outside of academia. And it's good for you to know that there are several options, and that those options can be very interesting, and there can be things that can be, you know, value that you will enjoy and you will laugh, and it's good to know what is out there. Now we will speak about something not really negative, but very natural. We will speak about fear, because we know that fear is very natural for all men and women, and it can often hinder us on our path towards success. So I would like to ask the speakers if they can share a moment in their career when they were afraid of something. It could be afraid of making a decision, or, you know, afraid of whatever. And how did you manage to overcome this moment? So what's your approach to fear? Radan?
Honestly, I can't remember any specific moment in my career. But
scares you in your
no. Well, it's not that I'm fearless. It's just how to say, you are there to make decisions. So and each of us are human, and of course that we, you know, have our second thoughts and stuff like this. But at the end of the day, decisions are there to be made. I think that the most important fears are, you know, fear from the fear itself, and fear from making mistakes. I think that the culture, especially in Europe, is still very much, how to say, risk averse. People are afraid of making mistakes, and that's one of the reasons why probably in US this whole, you know, whole society is very much more entrepreneurial than in Europe, because they are absolutely, you know, they are educated not to be fear of making mistakes, and they made them, you know, a lot of times their life, and just, you know, go on. And I think that you know, this is very important to understand and you know, explain to yourself. You just have to be, obviously, you have to be good at something. You have to believe in yourself. You have to be self-confident. And if you believe that you're doing right things in the right way, there is no reason to be afraid. I always remember one of my coaches said, you know, if you want to have a monument, you have to be able to tolerate that pigeons shit on your head. So you know, if you believe in yourself, just move forward, and there is no reason to be afraid.
Thank you for your answer. It was wonderful. It's true that fear can block success, but fear can also block innovation. That's why we speak about fear, because this is everything about increasing the innovation potential in Eastern Europe. The cultural remarks were also very good. Alison, your fears, and how did you manage to overcome them?
So I also can't think of a specific time when I had fear. But, you know, I think there are certain things that can be quite daunting. And so to sort of bring it down, not necessarily to think about a particular moment, but something that came up on the Mentimeter, networking. So networking is something that actually I think a lot of people feel very nervous about. I always have. It's really very daunting because on the face of it, it looks like going into a room or a virtual room full of lots of people that you don't know. And what are you going to do? And I know the more I sort of said to people, gosh, this is, I'm not necessarily completely comfortable with it. It makes me a little anxious sometimes. People I know and respect who are powerful leaders will go, I don't like it either, Alison. Have you not noticed the way I do this, that, or the other? So I have found ways of getting around some of my fears, and sometimes as I've got older, it's actually about giving voice to them, because that's okay. Not necessarily arriving in a networking meeting going, hello, I really don't like this, but finding ways of giving voice to them. If you can give it a voice, you can own it and you can begin to deal with it, but also finding strategies and different ways to network that isn't necessarily all about that I need to build a network of 100 contacts to by the end of the year, or I need to go into this big environment and come away with 10 new friends. So it's very doable, but it's about, for me, I think that's just an example of when the issues come along, it's just about looking at them in the whole, breaking them down into smaller pieces, and then finding what's manageable in terms of how you approach them.
Thanks a lot, Giedrius. Your either moment or fear, or the fear you have the most commonly occurring in your career?
Well, I think one of my fears related to scientific career is that you will be scooped by other scientists, especially when you work in very competitive field. And actually, it happened to our team several times at least. But of course, first time it was very painful because it was also main project of my PhD, and I needed paper to defend it, and our paper was reviewed for a very long time while as it came out. So I didn't know what happened, but for first time, and because it's related also to PhD, it was difficult. And later to you understand that you can be always the first always, and being second not always so bad.
Thanks a lot. Your fears are actually very common in science. And Peter, you are already senior. You have had a lot of experience. So what is the fear that comes the most often in your life? What you are afraid of?
As I said, if you go out of academia or public hospital, then you are going out from your comfort zone. And especially if you are doing startup and innovative things, then we are operating in many unknown aspects, and you have risks, and with risks, it's quite natural that you have fear also. But I think that if you have such difficult moments, then you have to analyze what you actually want from your life, and analyze what are different options, and then you realize that if quite often that if you're not coming out from comfort zones, then actually you cannot live the life as you want. And this helps also against fear to take new positions, new possibilities, and such maybe sometimes non-typical steps or steps to different areas.
Thanks a lot. So again, we saw fear is completely natural. It is maybe more common when you are younger, but with time you have to learn how to deal with it and to use it for your advantage. And it's very common among PhD students because you are younger, less experienced, and we have found out it's sometimes something that is hindering them, blocking them. So now we would like to know, go please back to your Mentimeter and just share with us, what are you afraid of in your PhD? What is your fear related to your career? And we'll just have a look So we have an idea what are young PhD students nowadays afraid of. I will show the results in a sec. And there are basically two questions. One is related to fear. What is the greatest fear? You define it yourselves. And then we have predefined some career blockers. And over there, we will basically assess what are the most common fear in our group. So fears here: mobility, funding, low salary, lack of funding and support, inability to catch up with advances, to be unpaid and overworked, cannot find a job after PhD, unemployment, yeah, not having anything to do after my PhD, so feeling of insecurity. Yeah, so you see, we have a lot of fears shared by our PhD students: stagnation, bad results. So I hope that it will encourage you at least that fear is very natural and everyone here is afraid, and we just have to learn how to work with it. So the list of fears is so long, I cannot even go to the end. So let's have a look at the breakdown of the fears. So it was the question, what is your greatest success blocker? And we see that most of the people here are afraid of uncertainty. A lot of people are afraid of failure. Many people have fear of inadequacy. So this is often rooted in low self-confidence. Some people are afraid of making decisions. You see, it's changing, but fear of failure, uncertainty, and inadequacy are the most common fears here in the group. Yeah, we will later on put everything in the summary article, and you can look it up. So we will stop share and we come to the very last question, and that's a positive one, and it's related to motivation. So sufficient level of motivation, it's very important determinant of success. And can you please share with us briefly what motivates you personally? It is because your work is interesting, it is the freedom of your work. What is your personal greatest motivator in your career, Radan?
I think that for me, the biggest motivator is actually drive to make impact. Depending on your position, depending on what you do, your impact might be, on a smaller environment, your impact might be bigger on a bigger environment. But, in a way, wanting that every day you make some impact and also doing things the right way. I think that you spend enough time, same amount of energy and time to do things wrong way and right way. So if you're doing it and spending time, maybe you should do it right way without any compromises, I would say. So doing things right way and making every day an impact, that's my motivator.
Thank you. Alison, what motivates you in your job?
Fairly similar, slightly different. I think my big motivator is making a difference. So knowing that things are in a better state because I've played a role than they would have been if I had not, is ultimately my motivator. But wrapped around that also is something very personal about having the freedom to do that. So not being in a very, very constrained, hierarchical kind of role, but having the ability to lead in order to be sure that I can make that kind of a difference with my teams, of course.
Thanks a lot. Giedrius, what's your motivator?
So I think my motivator is new challenges, because as already Alison, I think, mentioned that I do not like to be bored. So I think new challenges would drive me further.
Thanks a lot. And Peter, what motivates you in your career the most?
As I said, if we are in industry and business, then of course companies, they are oriented into also to achieve profit. But we think if you think about our area, then this is I think it's not most important, because there are other such more easy areas to to do money, for example, financial industries or so on. And therefore, I think that still the most important is the motivation to create something innovative, new into real life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Curiosity-driven researchers are the ones who bring us the new discoveries. Thanks a lot. Now, I would ask the audience again to just share with us what is your greatest motivator. Go back to the Mentimeter, and I will share the results. So let's see what motivates the students in the room. Okay, so we have a lot of answers. Nice. And they are very diverse. Success, recognition, curiosity, making a difference, accomplishments, making an impact, love for the job, money is also important, people, results, family, finding the truth. It's nice how diverse it is. Actually, the more people answer the same word, the bigger the word will be, but we have many small sentences, so people are motivated by various things or define them in different ways. So now we will come to the part where the students can ask questions. So I will start flipping through the questions. Okay, and I will be reading out the questions and then the people answer. So here, I have a question for Peter, somebody said. Did you start clinical trials on any cancer prevention test? And if yes, when can we expect some results and what facilities are using the tests?
Thank you for the question. Actually, our tests, they evaluate genetic predisposition for common cancers. And these genetic information gives us information when and how to start the cancer screening programs and prevention. Yes, we have started currently 2 projects, one with Norwegian partners and other with consortium within EIT Health Innovation Network in Estonia, Sweden, Portugal, Spain, and where we test visibility to use our breast cancer test in personalized breast cancer screening. But from other side, we have our tests already for use in healthcare, and they are, we performed last year a little bit more than 10,000 tests in majority of them in Estonia for these genetic predispositions. But this same time, this research and studies, they are such continuing process, as this is quite new field, personalized prevention, and there are a lot of to discover and develop in the future also.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. I will mark it as answered. And here we have a next question. So please use the Mentimeter. The people in the audience use the Mentimeter for the questions. We will go with the order and try to answer all of them. What would you suggest to a PhD student to do to increase their chances to be hired for a consultancy or management position other than working in their tech transfer office? I would say this was for Alison.
Hi, gosh, yes. So you increase your chances to be hired for consultancy or management. And that's a really tricky one, because the question is rather more, what is it that the firms who want to hire a consultant or somebody to work in management, what are they actually looking for? And my experience is what they're looking for is a bright analytical mind. And I'm not sure they're necessarily looking for a broad experience set. They actually want to hire you for the sharpness of your brain. So I don't know if there's a lot you can do other than maybe finding ways of talking to people who are already in those kinds of roles. So if it's possible to find an informal networking or networking in a sector, if there's a consultancy firm that specializes in life science or something, but just trying to talk to people so that you can find out a little bit about what the role is genuinely about, so that if you get as far as getting to the interview, you can demonstrate that. And the other thing that I would say is, when you're applying for a job, and it's something that I often see, and it's really disappointing, make sure when you're applying for a job that the organization you're applying to, when they read your, usually a cover letter that goes in, have a really clear understanding of why you want to work with them. So make them feel like that's a place that you really want to be. And that might involve just putting in just a very small piece of information, which is, I know that you do this, or you're in that kind of area, and that really aligns well with my interests. So it goes back to basic PhD, just do some research.
Thanks a lot. I'll mark it as answered. So we can go to the next question. What research positions are open to PhD holders that are exciting in terms of research development, and how to increase our chances to get hired to those positions? It doesn't say to who, but I think Radan might have a good idea about answering this question.
I'm not sure which positions are open, but basically what is fact is that if you are talking about industry, obviously, I guess we are talking about industry rather than academia. The industry is growing. It's now in a new, I would say, wave of growth, driven by the technologies and everything, and it's also driven by a number of small companies which are created. So I guess there must be a lot of open positions, and positions which are opening all the time. And depending on a field of research that you are dealing with, I guess you can recognize ideal companies that you would work in. My experience is that obviously you have to apply for positions, and in today's world there are so many opportunities how you can learn which positions are open, so that's no problem. But I would also not be afraid of approaching these companies, especially if they are small ones, and actually express your wish to work there, because very often, and I can tell you from our experience, very often people that actually show this ambition and then behind that they had some, credits which I built during their PhD work. We actually recognize them in the crowd, because that's the most important way. If you just wait that position open, maybe you're not going to get in a place where you want to be. If you really recognize, the place you want to be, don't be afraid or modest to sit and wait.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice answer. So if they would send an email on a position that is not open, the best is to contact the R&D director if it would be a research position. Right,
and say, I would like to work with you.
Yeah, okay.
The worst thing that can happen is that they say no. I mean, that's,
Thanks a lot. Questions are piling up, so we go to the next. How hard is it to get a position in industry straight after PhD with zero experience outside of academia?
I think it's I don't think it's hard. I think it's a problem if you're just seeking to enter academia before you get your PhD, because then your path to PhD might be much slower. So you don't want to do that. But once when you have a PhD, I personally would recommend to do maybe another round of postdoc, because you would give you more experience and more network and exposure to different kind of people. You give yourself 2 or 3 more years of running time, But even straight after PhD, I don't think it should be a problem to get a job, because academia is continuously looking for younger people, because they are the main driving force behind the engine.
Thanks a lot. Marking as answered. And we have the next one. In case of late PhD bloomers after 40 years of age, researchers who out of life-related reasons could not find their PhD at an earlier age, do they stand a chance to be accepted?
I don't remember that I was ever looking at the age when I was employing a candidate, frankly speaking. So it's really more about what they have accomplished in the meantime, and what makes them stand out in a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to add similar. I would like to add similar comment that actually age is only such subjective meaning. So exact age is not important.
Yeah, sure. But we often hear that, for example, if people stay too long academia, they have the academia culture, and the industry doesn't always welcome them, the older ones, because they are afraid it will be hard to change. So I totally understand why somebody asked that question.
It's never late, because I'm over 50 when I left public hospital, so it's never late.
If I can, maybe I should put a different light on that. Industry, and we discussed it earlier, industry is driven by profit, and decisions are made based on usability. So if it's not like an academia where there's a lot of politics and stuff like this. If academia needs a skill, they will get it. And if you are there to offer that skill, you'll get the job. Simple as that.
Okay, thanks a lot. We go to the next question. Excellent ideas, Alison. Have you experienced or seen any problem regarding family life balance as a woman? For example, I am a woman thinking of having a baby. So how is it in your career with work-life balance, Alison?
Oh, that's a super question, and I've got all sorts of anecdotes that I could tell you. I personally have been really, really fortunate, and when I moved into my first technology transfer job, I stayed there for 13 years, and I went in as a first tech transfer manager, and I ended up running the organization. But I had a fabulous boss who was the CEO at the time, and he had teenage children. He lived outside of London, had a big commute, and he structured his day by coming in at about 6:30 in the morning and leaving at 4:30. And he set a culture and a tone, which was not that macho, you have to be there all the time, and work-life balance happens. And also my PhD supervisor, I always remember him saying to me, Alison, if you have to be here at 10 o'clock every night, you're doing something wrong. So I've been super fortunate that I've worked in environments where people do respect a work-life balance. And certainly I see that as something that is becoming increasingly common in all sorts of sectors outside of academia. And I'm not saying that necessarily you can't have one in academia, but definitely outside of it, there's a recognition that you do need that work-life balance. And also, and I think this is a really important thing, and it's about the whole sort of diversity, equality, inclusion bit. It's not just about women, because it's also about other people. So I'm moving into a new role soon, and in that organization, they proudly said to me, we have 2 men in leadership, in a senior leadership position, and they job share because they have family caring responsibilities. And I think that there's a sense in twofold. People want to attract the very best talent, and do they know they have to be more flexible about doing it? And organizations want to create cultures that get the best out of people. So I think that there are possibilities and opportunities, and I think the future is getting a lot brighter. I think it is, despite Athena, Swan and all the rest of it. I think it's still really, really tough in an academic research community if you're taking time out to have a child and you move off that ladder. But there's a recognition that that has to change too. But I would also say, and I know you need to get through a lot of questions, but I'd also say, you know, that's an interesting question maybe to pose to one of the men on the panel as well, because this issue isn't just so even thinking about women, work life and babies, it's not just a women's issue, it's a men's issue too, it's a people issue.
So any of the men want to comment on a work-life balance and women scientists on maternity leaves? Radan?
Yeah, I can say that I think that it's very important. You know, it's very important to be a complete person, and a good scientist. And I personally, my personal experience that female scientists are very often much better scientists than men. Are, you know, they have one of their roles in their life is to have a baby. So I think that we should, you know, accept it and support it. We have to, if you have an organization where there are a lot of women, you have to make sure that your organization is able to compensate the fact that they are absent for some time. And but my experience is that those ladies which how to say, decides to make a career in science, they are by themselves. It's not about environment. They are by themselves driven by their ambition and wish to do things. And most of them, we in Croatia have this 1 year maternity leave. Most of them would come back not because we were asking them to come back, but you know, because they were driven by experiments they wanted to do, and so they would come back after 3 months, 6 months, because you know it was their drive. Organizations must be there only to support them in, you know, whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. It was a very encouraging and nice answer. Next question. Have any of you felt imposter syndrome at any stage of your career? Thank you. This is also a wonderful question because imposter syndrome is very common by the scientists. So for those who don't know what it is a feeling that you are feeling somehow inadequate and everyone else around you is better than you are. So it doesn't have a clear person who would like to answer that question. Anybody felt imposter syndrome or feeling inadequate in your career?
Well, I'm going to jump in, and I was trying not to, because it's I'm a woman, right? And so that is something that I think a lot of women feel, but I think it's something, you know, when I read about this and talk to people, it's something that a lot of people feel. And the question is, who, you know, are people prepared to admit to it or not? And by the way, I'm not suggesting that my fellow panelists are not admitting to this. If you haven't felt it, you haven't felt it. It's really common. And I think the fact that we now know that there's a thing called imposter syndrome is actually incredibly helpful, because previously, I think a lot of people have actually thought that they were on their own, thinking that they weren't quite adequate enough, judging themselves. But, you know, some of it, I think, also comes from this imposter syndrome, also comes from people who, I mean, they always say good leaders are very reflective. Now, I'm not saying good leaders all have imposter syndrome, but actually, if you're reflecting a lot on what's around you, what's going on, you're thinking about other people, you can internalize that a little bit, and that can sometimes get caught up into I'm not quite as good as, and then other people might come over in a particularly confident way when you're not feeling it's just their style. So I think for people with imposter syndrome, or when it occurs, you really have to think to yourself, well, what are my core strengths, and how am I going to get them across to other people? And I maybe have a different way of operating. And also, what clues and signals am I looking for that will validate me in my role and what I'm doing? And I might be having to look harder to find those, but I also have to figure out what they are and how meaningful they are. So we're all different, but yes, of course, I felt it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for answering this question. I would just say to this, it's very relevant to those fears that we spoke about before. And just knowing that everyone else is scared and everyone else has to work with their own fears and learn how to manage them and overcome them could be also an answer how to manage imposter syndrome if you experience it. So I will mark it as answered and go to the next question. What would you say are the most important things to do or achieve during a PhD? Or have achieved until you finish your PhD? Is there a moment in your career when you are too late to achieve or to learn? Who would want to take this? Maybe Peter?
It's never too late for anything, I think. First thing, and I think that the PhD is such a learning process, and same time you should be as open to all various experiences and impacts as possible.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. We will take last few questions because we were alerted to finish on time. So how hard would it be to come back to academia if switching to industry or few years after finishing PhD? So this is a question transiting back to academia from industry. So maybe again, Peter, who is more active in the academia, would you have a problem with people coming back from industry to academia?
In general, I think this is a big problem because positions are filled, and we have not covered one topic what is currently in academia is conflicts of interests, and therefore it's sometimes it's not possible to do activities in industry same time continuing working in academia, and there is need to move from academia to industry, and actually there should be a normal process for coming back, but this is not always so because simply positions they are involved already, and there are no positions after a few years in academia. So in general way, this may be a problem, but I hope also that from other side, academia will see such a bigger value in those persons who have also industry experience.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I definitely think they have a lot to offer because they bring a different set of skills. Radan, would you see there a problem in a return from?
Yes, well, I don't see it differently. The point is that I would put it different. If academia was smart, it would actually try to attract people from the industry, because they definitely would bring a different skill set, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of things could change for better in academia. It would be a mix, I would say, of people from academia and industry, but there is this administrative problem of positions and psychology and everything, and it is very difficult. I personally was living this parallel life, in academia and industry for a relatively long time, but for me it was not coming back. Although I am aware of number of people that have moved from industry to academia, maybe at some, I would say, later stage of their career. But I think it's really more a question of academia than people from industry who want today.
Thanks a lot. I will take the very last questions, and the questions that will stay there and will not be answered. We'll answer them. I will collect the answers from the speakers, and we will send it by email, so nobody will be left behind. So I take the last one now, and then we move to the last part. So dear Giedrius, you mentioned you trained your skills by reading books. Could you recommend us some? Thanks. So Giedrius is the next one. Could you recommend books that help you?
Well, I need to think about, maybe I can answer it by email.
Yes. Okay, good. We will send it by email. And now I would ask you to go to the Mentimeter for the very last part, because we'll be closing the session. What we would like to know is basically your feedback on this session, but mainly what was the most important take-home message? What was the strongest message, the most important lesson learned of today? It will help us to understand your needs and what you consider as important messages at your career stage. So please use the Mentimeter for the very last time. And I will now flip to the slide with the feedback and with the lessons learned. And we have already some nice things like well managed, everything is possible. It was outstanding. Together we are much stronger than alone in research. That's true. A research career is usually not straightforward. It is important to try to see challenges in obstacles and sometimes to take a step out of comfort zone. Yeah, that was a wonderful lesson. It can be done. Never stop discovering new things. Let me go down. No matter what, trust yourself and go ahead. Everyone is afraid, so it's okay to be afraid. Never give up. Learn or grow better skills. How confident through results. Communicate better with yourself first. Drive to be curious. Drive to have an impact on a daily basis. Wonderful. I am so happy, and I am sure that the speaker too, that they provided so many valuable lessons to the young PhD students from Central and Eastern Europe who attended today's lesson. And I myself, I am very happy that you found it helpful, as I see here, and that you provided so many comments really speaks that you have listened attentively, you have remembered, and I really hope that you will be able to transfer those lessons into your life, and you will be able to be in charge of your career in life sciences. And I hope that our Skills Academy will in future also provide many learning opportunities for you to develop your career, and maybe one day you will be one of the speakers sitting here as the successful life science career presenter and speaker. So thanks a lot. I'll just keep scrolling so you see, and just if the speakers want to say some last words and goodbye or how they feel it, I give you the opportunity for the last 3 minutes.
I can just say one sentence which is actually famous Steve Jobs sentence. He said, "Don't live somebody else's life. You know, just live your own life and make your own decisions and move forward." And thank you very much for this. It was a pleasure being with all of you.
Thank you. Alison, you have last sentence for us?
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed hearing from all of our panel as well, and I thought the questions were super. And just good luck to everybody. You've solved all the problems yourself. It's so inspiring to see what's down there. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, would you like to have a closing word?
Yeah, thank you all for attention, and it was great to be here, and I hope that there will be a new wave of startup companies from Central and Eastern Europe.
Thanks a lot. And Giedrius, last words from you.
So thank you very much for inviting me and being here. And I think as a younger speaker, I would say that I also he had a lot of useful information for me, and I wish that I would hear it when I was PhD student.
So now everybody go on Twitter, find Alliance for Life, follow us, and don't miss any other future events. Thanks a lot.
Amazing. Esther, thank you very much for this. This was truly such an amazing session. I was smiling most of the time, actually. And it is truly inspiring to hear real life experiences from people who have gone through so many different parts of their lives professionally. And today were kind enough actually to share that with all of us at this Alliance for Life event. One of the many great things and insights that we heard today stuck in my mind. It was what Peter Padrick said. He said, "Let's not be no-sayers." It actually really resonated, and I think it's very helpful. So thank you for that. Once again, thanks to the moderator, Esther Jarur, and all 4 speakers, Alison Campbell, Radan Spaventi, Giedrius Gasiunas, and Peter Padrick. Thank you very, very much.